No worries, my dear. Ready?
Wanted to judge them. Oh, then I run through. Oh, man, judge them.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this second staging of the public sector debate competition, including those joining us via our social media platforms. I'm Aniki Clark, Communication Lead in the Transformation Implementation Unit, and I will moderate today's session with the help of the Chief Adjudicator from JADE. Today is a little different. We should have been having a match between the Jamaica Information Service and the Integrity Commission. Unfortunately, the Integrity Commission has withdrawn from the competition, and so the JIS will present their arguments and take a couple of points of information from the judges. The moot on which they will present today is, be it resolved that the use of artificial intelligence in the public sector will do more harm than good. At this time, I'll invite the members of Team JIS to introduce themselves, starting with, to my immediate left on the JIS team.
Good morning. My name is Peter Gay Hodges.
And Peter Gay is?
Oh, I'm the first speaker. You want my
Title job.
Okay, I'm a public relations officer at the JIS.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Charnel Henry, second speaker, Jamaica Information Service, and I am the acting special projects manager.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Twyla Whelan. I'm the third speaker on the JIS team, and I'm a public relations officer.
Thank you very much, Team JIS. Clap them. Yes? Good. And at this point, I invite the judges to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Aniki. Good morning, everyone. My name is Cleveland Tomlinson. I'm one of the chief adjudicators for the competition, and I will be your chair judge for the match.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Roshana Jarrett, and I'll be your wing judge for this match.
Good morning, everyone. I am Najani Stewart, and I'll also be your wing judge for this match.
Okay, so we're no longer strangers, right? At this point, I will turn over to Cleveland, your chief adjudicator for today.
Thank you, Aniki, for so beautifully opening the match for us. This match, as Aniki indicated, is a bit different because an opposing team is not here. However, we will take the speeches from all the speakers on Team JIS with the exception of the reply speaker. Speakers are expected to present within the time allotted to them originally. That will be 8 minutes for the first speaker, 7 minutes for the second speaker, and 5 minutes for the third speaker. The judges are at liberty to ask points of information of the speaker on the floor. At minimum, 3 points of information will be asked, and we will ensure that badgering does not take place. And that means we will ensure that we do not continuously ask POIs without allowing you the opportunity to respond. Even when we ask POIs, the time allotment will remain the same. Also, we want to indicate that you are not at liberty to refuse a point of information. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, 8 minutes on the clock for the first speaker from the Jamaica Information Service.
Go ahead. Mr. Chairman, distinguished judges, worthy opponents, colleagues, I rise in opposition of the moot, be it resolved that the use of artificial intelligence in the public sector will do more harm than good. I wish to highlight the 2019 World Bank explanation of the moot, which is that the Artificial intelligence is the ability of software systems to carry out tasks that usually require human intelligence, vision, speech, language and knowledge, and search. I also wish to highlight the overlooked word in the proposition's definition, that seemingly insignificant, but alas, operative word in the Moot, which we on this side cannot afford to overlook, and that is will. Will expresses inevitability and advances the position that we're not talking about if, but rather has no choice but to do so. As first speaker, I will show how AI, no matter how simple, can increase efficiency in the public sector and contribute to the country's economic growth and stability. Second speaker will outline how AI can modernize the public sector and coordinate key activities such as disaster response. Third speaker will examine how the use of AI solutions is already doing more good than harm within the public sector. Mr. Chairman, the use of AI in government, just like any other disruptive technology, is a tool for efficiency. AI, as you may well know, is a disruptive technology which significantly alters the way consumers, industries, or businesses operate and generally puts to rest the system that it replaces because it has attributes that are recognizably superior. What are some of these disruptive technologies? E-commerce, GPS systems, and online news sites. How has e-commerce transformed how we do business in government? Just ask the tax office. As for online news, well, the JIS is well placed to tell you that Jamaica's news has made it to every nook and cranny of the earth because the reach of online news is much wider and farther than any paper or television show could ever be. We dare say the use of many disruptive technologies could have done more harm than good if not properly regulated. Please bear in mind that cars, electricity, and television sets were disruptive technologies in their time. Why then would we not see the absolute necessity of one of the newest disruptive technologies, artificial intelligence, which has the potential to revolutionize government service and the way we operate in the public sector? When we look at the glaring inefficiencies that exist in different areas of the public sector, I think we can all agree that the use of AI in certain areas would do much more good than harm. Take, for example...
Point of information.
Go ahead.
We have a concern that the increased use of artificial intelligence will stifle creativity because of an over-reliance on the artificial intelligence at the expense of the human intellect.
And further on, I will explain how we must put regulation in place to ensure that artificial intelligence is engaged in the way we wish to engage it. We run things, things don't run we. When we look at the glaring inefficiencies that exist in different areas of the public sector, I think we can all agree that the use of AI in certain areas would do much more good than harm. Take, for example, the vexed issue of national security. Our crime-fighting strategies have proven to be no match for criminal elements who are now brazen enough to pull off daring daylight multi-million-dollar heists in full view of onlookers and the cameras on the Jamaica Eye network. Imagine with me for a moment how many of those violence producers would have been brought to justice by now with the use of face detection, which is an AI-based computer technology used to find and identify human faces in digital images and video. The UK has successfully been using facial recognition at traffic lights to issue tickets with great success. AI can also be used to detect fraud and can be used, for example, by procurement agencies, anti-corruption units, or audit agencies. In Brazil, under a World Bank-funded project, which... Go ahead.
How do we guarantee that we do not have an increase in job loss to AI, AI replacing human beings in the organization?
Well, the short answer to that is that you have to pivot and move with the times. So the jobs that you're going to be creating would address fixing AI, fixing software, addressing software, etc. My second speaker will elaborate. In Brazil, under a World Bank-funded project, which was done through the Disruptive Technologies for Development program, AI was used to detect over 500 firms that practiced nepotism in contract distribution. Of course, the government was able to shut that untoward activity right down.
Point of information.
Go ahead.
I think that that response was sufficient. However, if taken in the context of the Jamaican public sector, that is generally seen to be very responsive with respect to their unions and government when there is going to be an increased job loss. How do you expect to treat with this when unions are not going to simply sit back and allow for their workers to be replaced?
Well, I will say this to you. Unions, as I understand them, are progressive organizations that are interested in the advancement of the public sector. Certainly the union, which we are a part of, which is the Jamaica Civil Service Association. In the area of compliance and risk management, AI systems are used to cross-reference data from multiple sources to create alerts from non-compliance. AI could perhaps have been helpful to investigators in the $222 million fraud case at the Institute of Sports, who by their own admission took many years to crack the case, which resulted in 5 people being recently arrested years after the fact. AI makes light work of activities which are beyond human cognition, and the truth is that AI is transforming intelligence because of the sheer volume of information that can be processed by machines. Mr. Chairman, if we look a little closer, we can see that one solution to the issues put forth by the proposition, particularly risks, lies squarely in putting the necessary regulations in place to guide implementation and execution of AI-related activities. And remember the adage, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. AI can only do what you teach it to do, so teach responsibly. My opponents, we are not under any illusions. We are fully aware that implementation of AI in the public sector must be done in a systematic and controlled way. So even if there are risks posed by the use of AI, the legislative framework for data protection and privacy must be put in place to address these challenges. The U.S. Department of Commerce in 2023 released a framework which provides organizations with a pathway to use AI technology in a way that reduces risk and that is open to other countries which can bring it to their own context. Governments all over the world view AI as a strategic resource to enhance the competitiveness of nations and to boost economic growth. A 2018 report by McKinsey & Company has concluded that AI can potentially contribute 13 trillion with a T to the global economy. We cannot afford to be left behind. Ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case.
Thank you, first speaker, for that beautiful contribution. And we will take the contribution from the second speaker.
Mr. Chairman, my esteemed colleagues, good morning. As my first speaker stated, the operative word will in the Moot does not rest well with us, and we cannot under any circumstance agree that the use of AI in the public sector will do more harm than good, because we have proof that it is doing good. The proposition would argue that AI implementation will cost thousands of public sector jobs. However, we believe that the use of AI is not only inevitable, but it will create new jobs. And the government has been preparing for it. We see where JAMPRO has been upskilling workers in the global services sector to do more value-added services beyond business process outsourcing. We also see where the government has been advancing STEM education island-wide to prepare us for new emerging jobs. Additionally, just last month, the Prime Minister announced the creation of Centers of Excellence at Hart NSTA Trust institutions, which will create for us or prepare us for jobs in information security, industrial automation, robotics, mechatronics, just to name a few, because after all, someone will have to create the AI and maintain those solutions. Mr. Chairman, they say the proof of the pudding is in the eating, so let me give you a taste. We believe that the use of AI in the public sector does not have to be nearly as expensive or costly as some would say. It can actually advance the public sector and propel us to realms of modernization that the TIU and the public sector modernization program were created to propel us. I want you to think back to a time in our past when the land surveyors of the National Land Agency had to climb treacherous terrains along hills and valleys to survey land.
Point of information.
Accepted?
Speaker, we have a concern that there might be cybersecurity risks, given that Jamaica's cybersecurity architecture is not sufficiently strong enough. We have seen over the past where government entities would have been susceptible to hacking. How do you resolve this when we employ significantly more AI?
Other countries, and we have been learning from them, have been using this sensitive data and preparing or protecting the sensitive data in ways that we have been modifying and following. We will modify once we have the legislation in place. We will put in place security standards that are in keeping with international standards, just like we have been doing with the RGD and the information they store, the Electoral Office of Jamaica and the information they store, and along with NIDS, the new command block, and the information that it too will store. But thank you for that point of information. Now, as I was saying, picture with me a time when the land surveyors of National Land Agency would be climbing treacherous terrain to just survey the land and give us an idea of the amount of parcels we have to our disposal for development. Also picture the lens that the NWC and the Water Resources Authority would have to go through to map the country's water resources, determine the best layout of our pipe and networks, and also factor in the physical assets that we have on land. Now, I imagine that multiple maps would be needed for this, but guess what? Because cartography, the rules of cartography would state that everything cannot be on one map. Fortunately for us, the government has an enterprise-level agreement with the Environmental Systems Research Institute, ESRI for short, and they have provided us access to improve our processes and our output. ESRI is a geographic information systems network or software company, and the enterprise-level agreement gives us access to their software at a discounted rate. Now, something like this could be used to access additional AI in the future, a discounted rate through an enterprise-level agreement. Now, it means that we no longer risk the safety of our land surveyors to get surveys done because drones can do it now in record time. It also means that our country's existing resources that are mapped are now updated, they're digital, and they are multi-layered on maps. It gets even better, Mr. Chairman. The most used software by ESRI, which is ArcGIS, and many Jamaicans, including my colleague at the back from Water Resources Authority, knows about ArcGIS. And ArcGIS uses AI to create outputs, which are maps, from the information that we input to it. And I dare say, the National Land Agency, the NWC, PIOJ, Water Resources Authority, Statin, and EOJ, all entities that use ArcGIS would say that AI in the public sector is doing more good than harm. Accepted?
So my point is two-layered, and I'm going back to my original question. What are we going to do with these land surveyors when we start using drones and all these other AI technology? What are we going to do with the hundreds of students who are going to be coming out of university with these degrees? One. Two, public sector has a significant problem. Customer service is one of those problems. Artificial intelligence does not have that human element to it. How do we ensure that we integrate or, improve on that element within the public sector that is so lacking?
Thank you for that. As my first speaker had stated in her speech, we do not propose that we introduce and use AI without human supervision. There has to be some amount of human supervision and guidance within the use of it. So all of those university students coming out will now be able to use AI to better them in their jobs, and they will be ensuring that the data it collects is actually accurate. Somebody has to do the checking. Furthermore, the opposition, the JIS, believes that AI technology has the potential to reduce disaster losses and help us better coordinate our disaster response. For half the year, we are held ransom to tropical cyclones. And you must remember that catastrophic magnitude 7 earthquake that Haiti suffered in 2010. We share the exact same Enriquillo plant and garden fault line with them, which means that at any given time, we could experience similar earthquakes to what we did last week, or even worse. Now, according to the PIOJ's assessment of the cost of disasters on Jamaica's infrastructure, in a 10-year period, disasters cost us $111.37 billion. Now, the Stockholm Environment Institute takes it further to state that if we sit and do nothing about how we engage and approach disasters, by 2050, disasters would cost us, Jamaica, 27.9% of our GDP. Sit and do nothing for another 50 years, and that inactivity will cause us 56.9% of GDP. Now, I know you would not want, continue? I know you would not want that much percentage of economic output to go towards disaster recovery, not for Jamaica land we love. So I urge the proposition to look at the example of Australia and how they developed Spark AI technology to predict the spread of wildfires. With that AI technology, it reduced their loss from wildfires from 70 billion in 2019 down to 165 million by 2022. Now imagine how that technology paired with Jamaica's bushfire warning index could benefit Mr. Mack in protecting his onion farm in St. Elizabeth, or even the residents in the hills of rural St. Andrew, who are often fearful for their lives and livelihoods because of the threat of wildfires. Continue?
Yes. No,
or
no.
stop?
Yeah, that's it. Yes.
That's it?
Yes. 7 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Well, what I can say is that we got a lot out of your. we. So yes, we got a lot. All right, so thank you, second speaker. Let's invite the final speaker and let's take her presentation.
Mr. Speaker, judges, members of the audience, my team, my worthy opponents, good morning. My team has passed the baton to me to further our stance by considering the use of the word more in the moot. I'm here to put in perspective, comparatively, how the use of AI solutions will do more good than harm with controlled implementation. The use of AI in our public sector has already begun in small stages, and it will inevitably continue to pervade each aspect of government and how government interacts with society. On March 10, the Justice Ministry launched their revamped website with a new feature, a version 1 chatbot. Now, chatbots are one of the most common examples of simple AI use that allow increased access to services through virtual contact. This means that my mother in Hartford, Westmoreland can get information on her phone on restorative justice services the next time she has issues with her neighbor. All this without spending the fare to go to SAV to wait in line or to waste time buying credit and wasting the credit to get through to a number that's busy. She actually represents one of the 40,000 users of the website who would benefit in all these ways, and possibly more, from using a simple chatbot designed to increase access to justice services. Now, the use of AI on the ministry's website also has features that facilitate inclusivity for persons who are vision impaired, those who have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, cognitive disabilities, and persons who are affected by seizures. This is AI currently enabling more Jamaicans to access justice services, thereby reducing the possibility of further conflict, which, mind you, is at the heart of crime in our country. Now, let's look at agriculture. In February, the Agriculture and Fisheries Ministry made a major investment in the procurement of agri-spray drones. One of these drones utilizes artificial intelligence with its multispectral cameras that provide a surveillance function which can help with protecting and monitoring farms. This means the drone can detect issues such as the dying of plants more accurately than the human eye. Data collected from this drone when paired with AI software such as PIX 4D fields, which is actually being used now by the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, can be analyzed to aid in agriculture mapping, which is an aspect of precision agriculture. Now, the use of precision agriculture, which involves observing crop and gathering data to inform decisions for sustainable yields, is critical to the ministry's Grow Smart, Eat Smart initiative. When we put this in the context of Jamaica's food import bill, the conflict in Ukraine, and the need to up our productivity, especially after a pandemic that amplified the value of food security, tools, disruptive technology like AI can improve our capacity to feed ourselves. It's a no-brainer why we'd want to implement them. Judges, I hope you're counting, because it's sounding like a lot more good than harm is being done at the moment, with the prospect of even more good to come following this line of implementation. Now, the Moot makes a declaration about an undefined point in the future for the impact of a still developing area of technology. But AI potentially causing harm does not equate to that level of harm outweighing its positive benefits. Let us extend our understanding and address one of the overwhelmingly commonly recognized impacts that could be seen as harmful, which is the effect of AI on job functions.
Point of information.
Go ahead.
So we've seen what has been happening in recent years, where countries such as Russia has infiltrated Ukraine. Jamaica, being a developing country implementing AI technologies, what is to stop a country like Russia from infiltrating Jamaica's AI technology and crashing our food security and other structures or public or other sectors of our industry? What could stop them from
I'm happy you
crashing
asked
us?
that, because we currently have cybersecurity issues now, and the thing about our entire presentation is the use of controlled implementation. It's about doing it in stages. It's about taking the right steps. It's about taking it at a level, as I mentioned before, like utilizing simple aspects of AI technology that wouldn't be prone to such highfalutin attacks. All right, a minute to go. A Forbes article published on April 20 titled, "Does AI and Automation Do More Harm Than Good?" questioned if the use of AI made work smarter, finding that it could diversify some tasks in a job, which translates to adding to the job function. If we were to apply that to the agriculture sector, for instance, where we describe the use of AI-equipped drones, when you compare having to learn a new skill set and additional tasks, which may actually boil down to upskilling, to the possibility of protecting and advancing the food security of a nation, or simply improved surveillance to help stop thieves, then that, from my perspective, shifts the scale towards AI doing more good than harm. In 2020, then Minister of Science, Energy and Technology, Favour Williams, said, "We are in the digital era where the only constant is change. As the sprint capital of the world, we should be aiming to keep up with this change, taking it at a pace that truly benefits us, just as we're doing now. We should be sprinting towards the good that AI can bring us, not away from it, because of this running fear that it could harm us." I rest my case.
I will follow that point of information by localizing it. What can stop someone locally from infiltrating?
We can have the discussion.
Well, the arguments have been delivered by the Jamaica Information Service. Well done, team. The judges will now deliberate, really to assess your arguments and to be able to score you. And they will return in about 10 or so minutes to announce the points that they've identified and to announce the best speaker. At this point, we'll take a break. You can have some refreshments next door.
Thank you for patiently waiting on us. Good morning, everyone. That was very impressive in our estimation for the most part. We loved what we heard from some of the speakers, generally all the speakers, but then we also had some concerns which we'll point out. But we thought in general, a case was fairly well presented and a case was developed substantially. However, some challenges that would not have augured well for you had an opposing team been here and pointed out these challenges, then those might have created, or could have created rather, shortfalls in your arguments. So let's talk about what we heard from you, and let's talk about how you could have bolstered those arguments. Also, before we get into that, when we look at the responses to the points of information, we thought that they could have been more adequate, and we will provide a response with respect to how you could have bolstered the adequacy of those points of information. When you engage in a kind of debate that asks you to compare whether something does more harm than it does more good, it is simply not sufficient to point out all the good things that we get from this particular thing and then all the bad things that we get from this particular thing. Because now what that comes down to is essentially a counting contest. Can we count how many goods we get out of this? Can we count how many bad things we get out of this. And we think that that is a surface level kind of analysis that you engage in. To take the analysis to a higher order level, it's important to not just identify what are the good aspects of these things, but to tell us why these good aspects are more valuable, are more important, and ought to be taken more into account relative to the bad things that you'd have highlighted. Because the truth is, you could have pointed out as an opposition team maybe 3 good aspects of AI, whilst the proposition pointed out a dozen negative aspects or bad or harms that could come from AI, and you could very well win the debate. Because the 3 good things that you would have pointed out, you would have gone above and beyond to show us why those 3 important things are more valuable to us in the context of the Jamaican public sector and ought to be valued relative to the harms that they pointed out. Or you could have said, we can live with those harms, but then the good that we get outweighs the harm. So it is that sort of higher order analysis of the relativity between the good that we get and the harm that we get. We thought an attempt was made at doing that by the first speaker, by the second speaker as well, but we thought it was done more so by the third speaker. So the third speaker would have come up and posited the useful elements of artificial intelligence when it's incorporated in the agricultural sector. But not only did she stop there, well, rather, she didn't stop there. She went further to tell us why we ought to value this important benefit of AI in agriculture in the context of us trying to bolster our food security in Jamaica and our high food import bill. So that was very important and very and in direct relation to what I'm talking about when we say identifying and telling us why we ought to value this beneficial aspect of AI. So that was very commendable on the part of third speaker. And we noted that it was attempted at in first speaker, second speaker, but more so done by the third speaker. When we look at the other slate of arguments, we thought that these arguments were generally sufficient. When we talk about artificial intelligence, it is expected that AI will bolster efficiency in the public sector. However, when we talk about efficiency, we have to confront the argument about the loss of the human element. And the point of information that I would have asked originally was not responded to about how artificial intelligence replaces that human element that stifles creativity within the work environment. Because a lot of the success that comes out of public sector workers is not solely based on the competence of an individual. It's based on the synergy and the cohesiveness of the human element working together, which is lost when you have an artificial intelligence. That is something that could have been pointed out by a proposition team, which in our estimation wasn't adequately dealt with in your estimation, in your response. So your response to that POI was, well, we will seek to regulate it. We'll seek to have some sort of framework that guides its implementation and operation throughout its existence in the public sector. And that, in our estimation, did not directly clash with what the issue we had was how creativity is lost when that human element is replaced. There's another important clash that I will wrap up my feedback on. And this clash was about whether AI would create more jobs than it would eradicate jobs. So it is important to identify that even if AI were to create more jobs, is it a case where that the loss of the jobs relative to what is created is more? And you have to engage with that sort of analysis. Because if a proposition team were here, they could say, yes, AI will create jobs. Certainly it will create a role for individuals to modify the AI, for individuals to ensure that the AI is properly working. But we think that the quantum of jobs that it creates relative to the quantum of jobs that it will eradicate is far more, and therefore not an alternative to be pursued. So that is the kind of analysis that we want you to engage in when you get a motion that asks you to engage in relativity and comparative analysis. So in that regard, but generally we think that it was a very good case that was presented, but just highlighting the concerns that a proposition team could have highlighted. So well done. and in my estimation, quality and credible speeches prepared. The best speaker in this debate, in our estimation, was the third speaker, who would have done an excellent job. Right. So these points were unanimous. So the first speaker would have ended on 73 points. The second speaker would have ended on 75 points. And the third speaker would have ended on 76 points. The third speaker, 76 points. So that is the range of scores. And in our estimation, and if you know, those are very good scores. Aniki, those are very good scores. Those are very good scores. So, ladies and gentlemen, take care.
Thank you very much, Cleveland, and thank you very much, Team JIS, for putting forward your arguments and, despite not having an opposition, being able to take the points of information. And we hope that the feedback provided, you will take that and improve for round two. So JIS will advance to round two, and we will share the fixtures with you by Wednesday. And thank you for participating in this match. You've been a tremendous audience, and thanks to those online. Stay tuned, our next match will be at 11:35 when the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade and the Water Resources Authority debate. Bye for now and stay tuned.